Total War might be the biggest real-time strategy franchise that we have, but it is definitely not the only one. With a few issues in the recent franchise, there needs to be some sort of alternative. So surely there is. I delved into some of the best Total War-like games that you can buy today. Some of them are still incredibly playable, still incredibly active franchises, and others being golden oldies. This is every single Total War clone you can play. I think it's best to start off with the most obvious and the most recent, and this is Manor Lords. Now, before you go into the comments and say, Manor Lords is not a Total War clone. Granted, it is not in its entirety, but the inspiration is without a doubt within the game, mostly basing it on its RTS mechanics, through soldiers that use terrain for detail, whether they're fighting uphill or downhill, whether archers can be more effective in forests or without them. Later on, we're going to be getting crossbows and cavalry that have recently been announced to come into the game. We are heading towards larger battles with more variety. And while Slavic Magic, the developer, has always said it is not a competitor for the Total War games, this is a list of games that if you love Total War, you're also going to get your fill out of. And Manor Lords is definitely that. Releasing earlier this year, it is one of the most successful indie games on the market, with a city building portion that has detail unlike you've ever seen before, with an initially solo developer making graphical fidelity that blew any competition out of the water. This is not just the best city builder I've ever seen, but this is one of the most complex games for such a small development team, and I absolutely adore it for that. Whether it is building up in small towns, growing your village into something akin to a settlement, going down different upgrade paths, whether it's getting better farming land or better armor, having settlers that are able to make themselves into artisans, crafting this armor, crafting fletchings, being able to make beer and sell it on the trading market and creating an economy of your own. We've recently also had the royal tax added in to indicate the fact that there is a king, and this king will, well, he will get angry if you don't pay, sending in huge armies in order to take you out if you're not sticking to his regime. Further in the future, we're going to get other settlements that you can interact with and so many more updates planned, and I cannot wait to see where that leads. The game somewhat is limited in terms of its playtime. You can maybe get a good 30-40 hours out of it in its current stage, but not being the most expensive game in the world, I think it's pretty much worth it. Do note it is in early access, and it will be in early access for quite some time. We have no indication of when it will come out in its full form, but Unreal Engine 5 is going to be the next port, with adding extra things like trading and resources such as fishing being brought into the game. It's a very actively developed game and with an incredibly active community. The player base right now is at a very settled point. With a solid base, there is so much further for this to go, and it is one of the titles that I would recommend checking out above all else. I mean, some of these battles can get incredibly hectic, and whilst the large scale is not the focus, with mods, you can really be getting there. I've had battles with hundreds and hundreds of soldiers on at the same time, and it's incredibly detailed with mocap animations, very authentic arms and armor, whether you're bowman, swordsman, spearman, and of course the new units that I added on later. You can take over these regions from the AI, and once you get to the last one, well, that's when he sends in his big army, and boy, can it get insane. Oh my, no! No! The mod works. The mod works. But I didn't expect it to be like this. Whoa. The terrifying faces of these guys, they mean goddamn business. They just keep going. We are on like a severe hill, which I guess is an advantage in some ways. Let's get some of these guys that are coming up the hill. I mean, archers have been debuffed in this version of the game. Now, of course, there is a mod that means you're able to buff them back up. I haven't got that. Oh, I'm about to get shot in the back here. Right, you're coming around. You're going to hit you in the back. You're going to charge down the hill now. That's going to be our best bet. Archer-wise, I'd like you to come around here. You lads. Oh, no, you're going to get hit in the back if we go around there. Archer-wise, let's just get some point-blank fire in. Okay, hit them, hit them, hit them, hit them. Hit them in the backs. Hit them in the backs. Oh, there's more coming in. Come on. Help out my 60-man retinue here that is not 60-man anymore. They're doing bits, but this is a battle for the ages, this. I am heavily outnumbered. So heavily outnumbered here. My archers are doing very well, but they have just been charged here. Oh my god, you can hold alt and get them into melee. That's a good idea. We will do that for now. Hit these guys that are surrounding my men. Please, 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 please. We're going to stand and fight to the end, though. We're going to do as much damage as we possibly can to these lads. Right, there's a unit of 2 spears there. Let's see if we can get them to rout. That might give us a little bit more morale. I think as a first, if you love the battles of Total War and you really want an extra element like the city building that merges together in this cacophony of perfect dynamic transitions between building up a small settlement to going to war, there is nothing better than Manor Lords. Not just now, but I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail. This is actually one of my favorite games in this franchise, and yes, it is a franchise, as we'll get onto in a little bit. But this game didn't release too long ago now. It released actually in 2021, and it is the tactical war gamer in the Ultimate General series. It is set during the naval campaigns, American Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, and it pretty much nails that perfectly. In terms of the single player campaign though, it is rather lacking. The main focus of this is the battles. So if you like Total War's campaign style, this probably isn't for you. But if you like the huge RTS battles, you are going to get nothing better than this title. I mean, it is a gorgeous looking game, by the way. You're able to take control of these huge armies, anything from naval fleets to on-land armies, whether it's cavalry or musketmen. You have all different types of troops that you'd expect from the era, and they do have a good focus on historical accuracy. So if that is what you favor, you're going to love this. Now, this is a much more small-scale game than something like a Total War, but you're still getting a good amount of detail. Now, I can't zoom all the way in, which is a little bit disappointing. But hey, it's about as good as we'll get from a general Total War competitor. And I don't think they're doing such a shabby job. Clearly not, by the way that there are a million games within this franchise. Oh no, we are under attack, sir. Double time, double time. I said. Can we get double time on here, please? Yes, there are so many games in this franchise at this point, and I don't want to go through all of them in this video because we'll be getting a lot of similarities. Because this actually started off with naval action. It is now a free-to-play version of Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail, but they kind of just expanded it into a full game. The reason I wanted to add this game in is because it kind of gives us what we've been missing without Empire or Napoleon coming in for a rehash or a remaster. But if you like the American Civil War, if you like Gettysburg, that's there for you. More recently, they've got the American Revolutionary War that is coming out with a full game as well. Go and head over to Jackie Fisher's channel if you want a full rundown of everything that's coming in with that title. But that does have a campaign with a campaign full map and the battles, so you can experience a full Total War version within this series that has a development team that know what they're doing and they're passionate about it. These games have been incredibly successful in the RTS space in most recent years, and I really hope that they carry on with it. Let's just sweep up. Oh, that last volley. Oh god, straight into their backs. So these are the battles, I guess the version of historical battles, but they're kind of just set pieces, because the game, it doesn't have the same kind of single player as many of the other games in this franchise. Their little feet, look at their little feet go. You can see in the bottom left that we've got the percentages of cover, morale and condition. These are all important things to take note of. Oh god, chill out lads, because we do not want them firing on my men. Let's get our sailors up the flanks, and you guys can be reserves. Okay, we are okay. This is possibly not the best idea here. I didn't know they were gonna have dragoons. That's okay, we're okay. We have rear flanked their dragoons. Okay, they're starting to melt. This is good, this is ideal. We should be able to take them out pretty well. Yep, there's a rout in their dragoons, exactly what we needed. We are currently being attacked by these regulars on the side, but the strongest points of Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail is probably its sound design and its graphics. It's absolutely gorgeous. As you will see, we come up with quite a few bugs within just the short time that I was recording footage, but I've spent some time playing it when it released back in 2021. There is a great amount of varied maps. I love the ship landings, especially the custom battles where you're able to take ships, And of course, they all have their own crewmen. Then you can disembark and they will send landing craft to fight on land. And you can have your Total War style battles like that. Now, that's something Total War has done, but I don't think it's ever really refined, and they have done it here. Of course, you'll come across issues as, unfortunately, the developers have kind of ditched the game at this point. So if you're not happy with it at this point in time, it's not going to get any better. But I can recommend this title to anybody that loves naval games, anything in the Age of Sail, and those battles on land. I mean, firing at ships from cannons in a fort, it is so satisfying. There is one custom mission that I've probably got on screen that I absolutely adore playing over and over again. Yeah, take that. Take that. I can still hear fighting going on over here. I think there's just a glitch. Now, one thing that I have been told is that the developers have actually stopped developing this game almost entirely now, which is unfortunate because it means stuff like this, the sound bugs, are not going to get fixed. It's kind of epic. They've kind of put a lot of effort into this. Way more than I thought. I don't really know what to say about Ancient Warfare, the Han Dynasty, because I'm kind of stuck in the middle of it. This is almost the pinnacle of a Rome 2 clone that's come out recently. Coming out in September 2023, it is a Chinese knockoff? I don't know. It's like a big strategy RTS thing, but with more RPG details. The campaign map, once again, is not quite as big as Creative Assembly's franchise, yet the battles go goddamn hard. Come on, boys. Let's take them. So here are our armies. It looks a little bit like the start screen actually to Tiger Knight Empire War, if you remember that. But it's time to see what these real-time battles are actually like. Oh my god, this UI is awful. Oh my god, I can't see anything. And the music is so intense at the same time. Go away. It's so loud. Hello, lads. Look at you. Oh, they do actually look kind of cool. They've got like a stylized outline, or I think that's just a buggy shadow. There's also that option. Right, archers, we're going to take you. Okay, well, we can't shift click. They do make a cool sound when you click them, though. Okay, I do like this. I like the design of how this looks. I will say yes to this every time. You're actually going to be my flanky boy. And the music is starting to grow on me as well. It's not too loud right now, and it's building up in a pretty cool way. So yeah, they do have like a stylized outline. I think it was supposed to be shadows, but we'll give it to him. We'll give it to him. Oh my god. You talk about arrow trails in Total War. I love that. Look at them just standing. It's awful. God, that is so awful. These things are absolutely huge, and they get bigger and bigger as you go on through this campaign. Of course, there are custom battles that you can just play as well, but the campaign, whilst it has its issues, and we'll get onto them in a little bit, does take you through the biggest battles of the Han Dynasty in ancient China. And I couldn't really think anything more. The graphics are okay, to say the least. The gameplay in the battles, I think, is quite fun. It's pretty fast-paced, way more fast-paced than any of the other games on this list. You will find, especially early on, you'll be chugging through armies time after time, especially with the huge amount of archers that you have. One thing I would definitely say is the campaign, and in general, the UI in this game. It's horrific. It is so bad. Yet that aside, I don't hate it. It is a little bit strange, and there's a little bit of controversy around it where some of the codes come from. It feels eerily similar to everything that we had in Three Kingdoms Total War. So if you like that title, you'll probably like this. The other good thing is it's cheap as hell. Currently, it's about £12 on a 10% off sale on Steam, which is nothing, about $15. And there's a good amount of content. I would skip it if your main love in the Total War series is the campaigns, because this really leans towards more like a Mount and Blade style campaign, an RPG setting where you can upgrade your generals and your troops. Of course, each general has their own skills and assets that you can put skill points into, and they'll get better, so on and so forth. But the main thing for me are the battles, the huge scales in different terrains with different varieties, whether it's on land or, of course, in sieges. My god. Whilst the graphics are nowhere near anything that would Total War, and the animations are almost non-existent, I think it makes up for it in scale. Uh-oh. Can you guys stay at the back for a little bit? Yeah, don't come forward just yet. Oh, they're coming. Oh, they're coming. We collapse them so fast. Oh my god, they just get destroyed. This is not even a competition. I mean, I know this is like the start battle, but the pace on this game is mental. Watch out, swordy boys. Right, we're gonna have to send swords on them. Spears. You come over here. You come over here. There's gonna be a lot of friendly fire if we're not careful. Send them in. Archers, you just demolish them. Gonna bring some swords around the side as well. Beautiful. Well, that was a pretty good win. Oh, it's just some intense music to slaughter the last few archers that are just bugging out here. And actually, despite its clunkiness, for being £14 and for being a competitor to Total War, something that Creative Assembly genuinely needs at the moment, this is probably one of the best offerings along with the Ultimate General franchise. They've done a fantastic job here, on the most part. Imperial Glory is such a cute little game. I don't think that was ever what it was intended to be, but god damn it, I love this. It came out in 2005, so in the height of where Total War was kind of gaining its popularity. And this was the Napoleon Total War before Napoleon Total War. Look at these battles. Do they not remind you of what we used to have? Okay, you can tell the budget is nothing of what the modern day Total Wars were, or even the Total Wars back in the day. But don't get me wrong, for a game made in 2005, it's still such a large scale. Also, the sound design is great. UI is fantastic, and whilst it's probably not quite as good as the competition, i.e. Rome 1 back in the day, it's still up there. I think the battles do feel a little bit more scarce, mostly because they're very barren wastelands. Even the Waterloo map is just 2 buildings on a flat plain. And don't get me wrong, Napoleon Total War's version isn't the best thing in the world, but it's better than this. Also, the AI is horrific. They will just run out of buildings. They won't defend anywhere. They'll just charge at you with cavalry or even cannons. They will try and melee fight you with cannons. So don't expect a good AI experience. The campaign is pretty bare bones and basic. The flashing on the screen is just any recording software that tries to touch this game anymore because it's so goddamn old. You can move troops around in these kind of, I guess, early Total War style. You remember in Shogun when there were more board pieces than actual armies, but you don't really get much indication of where they can go or how far you can move them. The diplomacy is basic to say the least, so most of this is building up armies and trying to get into battle as soon as possible. Speaking of battles, the ship battles are something else. Trying to control ships in this is one of the most hellish things I have ever done. They do not respond very well, but you know, if you get some good shots off, which you have to manually do, you have to manually press the fire button, like no Total War game ever. Okay, maybe some Total War games. Then you might be able to sink a ship. It was interesting to say the least. I think the naval battles are probably its weakest point. The land battles, however, that's when it starts to get a little bit more fun. You can control your troops much like Total War, clicking on them, right-clicking and dragging to set their direction. However, they are locked into columns or lines or squares. You can't really morph their formations much more than that. Cannons have to be unlimbered. That was something that took me a while to work out. So I was sitting there just looking at Hougoumont for a good 10-15 minutes, but we got there in the end. There isn't really anything in terms of destruction. I think one of my favorite parts of Napoleon or Empire is having building destruction and being able to blast bits away with cannons. That's just a really cool aspect of the game, especially in naval battles, seeing your men scurrying around on the deck as the mast bits fall to pieces, men jump overboard or get, this sounds dark, drowned as the boats capsize. This is pretty much Napoleon Total War light. That's probably the best all-round review I could give it. The game now sits at mostly positive on Steam. I think that's just basically because it's an incredibly old game. I would probably call it a gem, but it is definitely not better than Napoleon Total War. If you want to play a game in that setting, I would definitely go for that. This has a very limited single player. The battles itself are pretty hard to complete because of the lackluster AI, and it's pretty fast paced. Units will crumble instantly or just rout, and the game will crash. Something that you cannot fix now because there is no development for it. just go and play Napoleon Total War. These guys also made the Praetorians games, just as a side note. I think the difference between this video talking about Total War clones and the one that I did on the Mount and Blade clones is Mount and Blade clones seem to directly take from its inspiration and rarely add anything too different. But all these Total War clones are standalone games in their own right. In fact, I think it's even harder to class them as clones, and they are all great strategy games to some extent, all adding in their own extra bits. Manor Lords has something fantastic there. Age of Sail is building its own franchise and is kind of gaining on Total War in terms of popularity. And I think it's really great to see that whilst they may have been inspired, in some ways, they've started to surpass the king that started it all.